I think you saw it last night. The fact that they asked Josh Hader to pitch 2 innings, and it's April 30th. I mean, they're in urgency mode already.
We're back with The Athletics. Chandler Rome covers the Astros. Great follow at Chandler_Rome, and please check out his articles, especially the latest one that he put out on Jose Abreu to get a lot more context, both from like a statistical standpoint and from the way that he's dealt with this with the team, the players, the org, the whole deal. Chandler, great work, and you've had a lot going on in covering this team in the first month of the season. So let's start with Abreu. Why did he get optioned? Why was he okay with it? And what do you think happens next?
Well, he got optioned because as of yesterday, they entered yesterday's game 10 games under 500, their worst start since 1969. They couldn't afford to carry him on the active roster anymore. And there's only a couple ways you can go about getting a guy with more than 5 years of big league service time. There's only a certain number of ways this can go. And there was a meeting on Monday during a scheduled off day. Dana Brown was in it, the general manager, Joe Espada, the manager, members of the front office, members of the coaching staff were all in this meeting. They didn't want to share exactly what was said, but the picture the Astros painted yesterday was that both sides came to an agreement that this was going to be the course of action. I asked around a little bit and asked, what if he would have said no? And I didn't really get an answer. All I got was kind of like, oh, I guess we'll never know. But it was something that had to happen. They had reached an inflection point of they could live with. I think they could live with the offensive struggles, but what started to happen was he was getting prone to defensive blunders too. He wasn't catching pop-ups. He was failing to scoop low throws at first base. He was costing them, extra bases, extra runs, things like that. And for a team already with a pitching staff in tatters, a pitching staff that's got a ERA over 5, they just couldn't afford for this to continue. And, Joe Espada, the manager, he had done everything in his power. He had moved him to 8th in the batting order. He had basically put him into a platoon role with John Singleton. He was no longer an everyday player. And it just seemed like the game kept finding him. Joe moved him to the 8 hole. And the first game he played in the 8 hole, he took 3 at-bats with runners in scoring position. And it just seemed like every big at-bat was finding him. Every big defensive play was finding him. And it just got to a point where it was untenable. And, they still owe him upwards of $35 million in this 3-year, $58.5 million deal he signed. And I got my informed speculation would be that, owner Jim Crane's not ready to eat that money yet. And they want to see if this can be salvageable. And everything that was echoed yesterday was that they think this is salvageable. But after watching his start, I struggle to agree with that.
So what's the plan moving forward? What's the plan? You can't just go down to West Palm and be like, AJ going home while he's on the Phantom IL and just relaxing. If he's going to West Palm, hanging out with the extended kids, what's the plan? Get this at bat? Do we need to see this, bat speed velocity out of you? Do we need to see you field 100 ground balls in a row every day? Do they have a plan, or have they let you know it?
It sounds like they're going to let Jose Abreu be pretty autonomous in how they engineer this plan. They talked about it being a spring training sort of workouts, sort of ramp up. He's going to get however many at-bats he wants on the backfields in extended games. They're going to have the coordinators there to work with him. Dana Brown said he's going to fly down to Florida at some point to check on him. Jeff Bagwell, who seems to have his hand in everything in this organization, he's going to fly down as well to see if he can lend some support. Bagwell's been working with him in pregame batting practice when he was still with the big league team. He's worked with him on a number of occasions in pregame batting practice. I wonder, too, if they chose this route, sending him to West Palm Beach, just to maybe get him out of the spotlight, the limelight. Because if they would have optioned him to Double-A or Single-A, there would have been a media crush. There would have been people. You can stream these games and watch his at bats, and I'm not sure that's what he needs right now. And I don't know if you guys saw the quote that he gave to Alden Gonzalez of ESPN when they were in Mexico, but I mean, it was pretty tough to read. It's pretty clear that this is a guy that, he said it outright. He's embarrassed. He's embarrassed about his production. He's embarrassed about the way he's played since he got to Houston, and he's wearing it. I mean, it's been tough to watch this happen in real time because everyone in that clubhouse loves him. Everyone in that clubhouse. I mean, Alex Bregman said last night he's one of the best teammates he's ever had. This is not for a lack of effort. This is not for a lack of, wanting to be better. This is, if anything, the Astros thought he worked too hard. He took too many at-bats, took too much pregame work, and that kind of tired him out. So it sounds like it's going to really be up to Jose Abreu, kind of how he goes about this stint in West Palm Beach. There's no timeline of when he'll be back or anything. But it was clear something had to happen, and they couldn't afford to keep carrying him on the active roster.
Chandler, you mentioned Jeff Bagwell. He was the one that pushed hard for the Astros to sign him, was he not? He was like one of the main guys because I remember he came from the White Sox, and the White Sox, when this deal went down, they were like, you gave Jose Abreu what kind of money? And they knew him better than anybody. So what is the organization? I mean, and from what you're saying also in the second part kind of this question is, with no plan, that means they're like, oh, well, maybe he might not get it back. I don't know. It's weird to me that they're like, well, we don't exactly know what we're doing. We don't know how long he's going to be down there. And maybe he'll come back. Maybe he won't. So it's a confusing situation because, again, why didn't they just throw him on the Phantom IL, say he has a hamstring injury, and send him to Palm Beach that way? The whole thing is just an odd situation now.
I kind of thought about the Phantom IL thing too, AJ, but then I kind of wondered, did Billy Epler getting suspended for as long as he did that spook him a little bit? I mean, they put Gray Kessinger on the IL yesterday to clear a roster spot for Joey Loperfido, who came up. So they could have done it, but I'm not sure why that was the course of action. And to answer your question about Jeff Bagwell, it's worth remembering that the Astros signed Jose Abreu without an actual general manager. They had parted ways with James Click about a month earlier, and Jim Crane was overseeing the baseball operations department. He, at the introductory press conference that introduced Jose Abreu, he credited Jeff Bagwell for flying down to Florida and getting the deal done. He's been very involved, and he remains involved in what they're doing from a baseball ops perspective and things like that. And, Jeff Bagwell's invested in this. He did an interview with Brian McTaggart of MLB.com a couple of weeks ago, and just to read about kind of he knows that he's pretty invested in Jose Abreu and trying to get him going, trying to get him working, trying to salvage anything from this. But it's pretty clear that this optioning him starts the clock. I mean, this is the clock is now ticking on his Astros tenure, and I do believe he will be back. I don't think they're going to send him down to West Palm Beach and just keep him down there, for the whole season. He will be back at some point. I think, if anything, that's a courtesy to him, because him accepting an option, I think, is a courtesy to the Astros. I mean, this could have gone a lot of different ways. They could have had to have an ugly kind of DFA situation sort of thing. But I think the way this went down was pretty smooth. And I think the Astros should maybe reciprocate that by giving him another chance at the big league level, seeing if clearing his head, if getting some time off. His family lives in Miami, so maybe just kind of being around his family a little bit in Miami, being closer to home, maybe that'll help clear his head a little bit. But it was clear that this had gotten to him, this had gotten in his head. And for so long, the Astros have been able to kind of mask things like this because they've just been so good. They kept winning in spite of all of this. This year they haven't, and they had to take drastic action.
So let's spin it forward. What's the best plan for the Astros to fill the spot for now? I know you mentioned Loperfido gets called up, got a knock, drove in a couple in last night's game. I loved the John Singleton bash and the bat flip to go with it. This team has a lot of players that actually play every day in a certain position, right? Bregman, Pena, Altuve, Jordan, etc. So do you think they want to utilize first / I guess some left field too while Chaz is dealing with an injury, Chaz McCormick, to mix in these other players, or will there be more of a set plan?
It sounds like it's going to be between three guys. It sounds like it's going to be John Singleton, Joey Loperfido, and Mauricio Dubon. Mauricio Dubon has started 2 major league games at first base, and those were both last year. And before that, he had not played the position since high school. Joey Loperfido, they view him as an outfielder. They view him as a more natural outfielder that can play all three positions. He played left field last night in his big league debut. He has started 56 games in the minor leagues at first base, but his defense is a work in progress. It's not to the level yet that I feel like they can go out there and play him every day. John Singleton is probably the most logical answer. But if they want a platoon sort of situation, both Singleton and Loperfido are left-handed. They could maybe alternate them against right-handed pitching, maybe start Mauricio Dubon against left-handed pitching, see how that goes. They will make a roster move today to take Abreu's spot on the roster. I think it's going to be Trey Cabbage. That hasn't been announced officially yet. I think it's going to be Trey Cabbage, and he provides another option, another guy that's maybe a little more natural of a first baseman, but he too is left-handed. So now you've got a glut of Singleton, Loperfido, and Cabbage, if it is Trey Cabbage. That's three left-handed bats, and it can get a little – that's a lot. So they're going to have to mix and match. The one thing Joe Espada did say is that he doesn't envision either of his catchers, Yainer Diaz or Victor Caratini, contributing at first base. Caratini has a good bit of major league experience at first base. Yainer Diaz started a couple games there last year. So they've got options, but I think right now they're going to settle with the three of Dubon, Loperfido, and Singleton.
You mentioned Joe Espada. Could his first year go any worse than what's happened to the poor guy? He was there for all those years, waiting. Here's my shot, and down goes Verlander, down goes Fromber, down goes Christian Javier, right? All of a sudden, Bregman is not, Bregman is sick and misses a bunch of time. Abreu all of a sudden can't hit, right? It's like, man, all these things have lined up. Abreu has been not good out of the bullpen. The starters can't pitch. Like, all the things the Astros were built around have just imploded at one time here. And poor Joe Espada, what's he going through right now as the new manager after all this time waiting?
I think you saw it last night. The fact that they asked Josh Hader to pitch 2 innings, and it's April 30th. They're in urgency mode already. They know that they've dug themselves a huge hole. They know that when they've got a 5-run lead in a game like they had last night, you've got to win that game. When you're using all of your leverage guys, you have to win that game. And that's why Josh Hader last night bucked convention, things that he's talked to you guys on this program about. And he got 6 outs in a regular season game for the first time since 2019. And I think that, there is an urgency now that maybe there wasn't under the previous regime, partly because of how they started. But that was even before they started this poorly. Joe Espada moved Jose Abreu in the batting order after 4 games. He moved him down to 8th after 16 games. He moved Alex Bregman out of the cleanup spot after 23 games. He's mixing and matching. He's doing everything, I think, in his power. He's got the highest paid bullpen in baseball, and they've blown 6 saves. He's given the ball to relievers that any other manager would love to close a game for him, and they're just not getting the job done. The starters obviously breaking down and being on the IL. That's just kind of an unfortunate thing. But also, there's other teams going through this. There's other teams with pitchers on the IL with injuries. And I think the one thing you have to look at with this Astros team too is Jose Altuve started every game. Yordan Alvarez has started every game. Kyle Tucker, Jeremy Pena, Yainer Diaz has started most of the game. They have had their offense intact, and they lead the American League in hits, but they have the 18th highest OPS with runners in scoring position. So part of it is they're getting runners on base. They're just not coming through. And I'm not sure there's much coaching or managing that can be done to hit with runners in scoring position. Now, they did talk a little bit. They were expanding their strike zone a ton with runners in scoring position. They were trying to do too much. They were pressing because they started off so poorly. But I think you've seen a little more lately. Guys are hitting the ball the other way, putting the ball in play instead of trying to, put a ball in the gap. They're hitting a fly ball when a fly ball is needed. They're hitting a ground ball to the right side to advance a runner. So they're starting to do the little things a little bit better. But yeah, it has been a perfect storm of calamity for Joe Espada in his first 29 games. And I think he's handled it about as well as you can. He hasn't really broken publicly yet. Then I think 3 wins in a row will help him kind of maintain that positivity. And, that's one thing I think that you can always count on with Joe is He's going to always be positive. He's going to always kind of be upbeat and a good personality, but I think he understands the urgency with which this team's acting right now.
Moving forward, is this what we're going to see? His usage from Hader? A 2018, 2019 Josh Hader where, hey, you know what? He's down for 2 days, but he's going to give us 2. I know not regularly, but is this going to be something that is going to get him on track, or how they're going to use him normally?
I mean, Joe said last night that he's not a fan of that. He doesn't like using him 2 innings. And I mean, I think Josh Hader has been pretty vocal that he's not a fan of that either. But he did say when he was introduced to the Astros media, he did say whenever and for however long. And so he has at least embraced that, and he seems to be on board with that. But I think the situation last night was a little bit more conducive. He pitched in that Sunday game in Mexico City. He had not pitched in the 7 days before that. So he had barely pitched. He threw Sunday, and then they knew he was fresh. They knew that if they went to him and asked him that he probably would be open to it, and he said yes. And, we didn't get to talk to him last night. Josh Hader, I'm interested to talk to him today and kind of see how maybe his thought process has changed, if at all, coming into this new situation. But no, I don't envision them trying to get more than 3 outs with him on a regular basis, but I think they understood they had to win that game last night, that you can't blow an 8-3 lead. When you've got your leverage relievers lined up, when you've used them all, you need to keep building on the momentum that they got in Mexico City. And I think they kind of understand. I get it was April 30th. There are no must-win games on April 30th, but that one felt kind of as close to one as you can get.
Yeah, it was a wild game. It's a fun game yesterday.
Can't win the pen in April, but you can lose it.
That's right. That's right. They should be in a better spot, like you're saying. I mean, some of the relievers, the law of averages, they're really good. They should pitch better. Abreu's spot should be better now in the lineup card. So we'll see what happens. I still think they're good, so I'm not too concerned. But yeah, you got to start getting on some win streaks. Chandler, great to have you on. Have fun, man. You got a lot of action for May 1st.
Enjoy Justin Verlander starting tonight with Angel Hernandez behind the plate. I'm sure.
No. You already gave us the lead of our show for tomorrow, I'm sure. Angel Hernandez is the star of Major League Baseball right now. It's incredible. He dominates social media whenever he is behind the plate. So thank you for letting me know that. I will definitely be watching. Can't wait. Chandler, have fun.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Hey, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.